We left off last episode with Ritchie Blackmore leaving Deep Purple mid-tour. So what was his next move? He decided to resurrect his previous band Rainbow. This is the start of one of the most fascinating chapters in Ritchie Blackmore's career. It was a transitional period defined by corporate pressure, a grueling audition process, and a deliberate return to the band's mythical roots. But here is the twist. Following the sudden exit from Deep Purple in late 1993, Blackmore actually had no intention of reforming Rainbow. He wanted a fresh start, away from major arena rock, and intended to record an acoustic-leaning solo album. To completely distance himself from the commercial pop rock eras of Rainbow singers Graham Bonnet and Jolene Turner, Blackmore wanted to name the new project Rainbow Moon. Executive management at BMG and RCA Records aggressively intervened. The album was originally intended to be a solo album, but due to pressures from BMG, it was billed as Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. They knew the Rainbow brand would guarantee massive album sales and tour bookings in Europe and Japan, forcing Blackmore to revive the moniker. In early 1994, Blackmore set up camp in upstate New York and began holding extensive auditions to assemble a backing band of hungry, lesser-known musicians. Scottish singer Doogie White had sent a demo tape to Blackmore's management. Blackmore's partner and future wife, Candice Knight, discovered the tape, loved White's voice, and handed it to Blackmore. White was immediately flown out to the United States to audition. Rather than just singing old hits, Blackmore had White write lyrics and vocal melodies on the spot to tracks like Judgment Day, which would later become Wolf to the Moon. White's powerful classic hard rock delivery perfectly fit the neoclassical style Blackmore wanted to revisit. Blackmore filled the remaining slots with American musicians, keyboardist Paul Morris, formerly of Warlock, the drummer John O'Reilly. The bass position was highly volatile. Blackmore initially hired Rob DeMartino from Virgin Steel, but quickly replaced him after the first wave of rehearsals with Greg Smith, who had previously played with Alice Cooper and Jolene Turner. The writing and recording process for Strangers All was a collaborative but highly demanding operation driven by Ritchie Blackmore's traditionalist working methods. The initial songwriting phase began in late 1994, centered heavily around Longview Farm Studios in Brookfield, Massachusetts. Despite it being the mid-1990s, the writing room completely rejected any digital recording software or early digital audio workstations. Blackmore would sit with his acoustic guitar or Stratocaster, throwing out riffs. If a groove locked in, White would spontaneously improvise vocal melodies into the boombox. Blackmore also provided White with a portable Tascam 440 Porta Studio 4-track cassette recorder to layer lyric ideas in his room. Some of the album's most sinister tracks came together almost instantly. For example, during a session for Hunting Humans, Blackmore started playing a basic riff. Greg Smith and John O'Reilly laid down a groove, and White pulled lyrics from a previous uncompleted idea based on a Scottish serial killer. The recording process exposed Blackmore's rapid shift in musical taste toward medieval arrangements. Blackmore's partner, Candice Knight, acted as primary lyricist and background vocalist during the tracking process. She co-wrote the lyrics for major tracks like Ariel, Black Masquerade, and Wolf to the Moon. The recording sessions included classical covers, a staple of Blackmore's career. They recorded a heavy rock adaptation of Edvard Grieg's standard Hall of the Mountain King. And they also re-recorded Yardbirds' Still I'm Sad, which is a song Rainbow originally covered instrumentally in 1975, but updated here with Doogie White's full vocals. The painstaking process resulted in 10 final tracks, though it has since been noted by archivists that 5 unreleased tracks from these extract studio sessions still remain locked in the vaults. Upon its release in August 1995, Strangers All faced a highly polarized reception, primarily because the musical landscape had dramatically changed since Rainbow's 1980s heyday. The album's reception was defined by geographic division, varying critical reviews, and a clear disconnect with the music industry at the time. The record performed drastically differently depending on the region, as mainstream Western markets had largely abandoned classic 70s and 80s hard rock in favor of grunge and alternative music. The album received very little promotion or airplay from BMG RCA in North America and the UK. Conversely, traditional hard rock and neoclassical metal was still immensely popular across Europe and Asia. The album scored strong chart positions in countries like Germany, Sweden, and Finland, and it sold well enough in Japan to earn commercial certifications. Music journalists in 1995 were broadly unsympathetic to 1970s-style Guitar Hero releasing a mythical rock record during the height of the mid-90s alternative boom. Dedicated rock and metal magazines praised Blackmore's guitar work, noting that he sounded completely reinvigorated after his bitter final years with Deep Purple. Fans of the Ronnie James Dio era appreciated the gothic atmosphere, heavily praising standout tracks like Ariel and Black Masquerade. Over time, the album's status has shifted considerably. While initially treated as the forgotten, unloved final album by casual listeners, hardcore Rainbow purists have heavily reassessed it. Modern fans widely respect how the record brought the band's career to a cohesive, symmetrical end. By re-recording Still I'm Sad, which closed their 1975 debut, the 1995 album served as a perfect creative bookend. Fans eventually realized that the album wasn't a failure, but rather a transitional bridge. The acoustic textures, medieval melodies, and prominent backing vocals of Kansas Night were a direct preview of Blackmore's Night, the Renaissance folk project that Blackmore would launch immediately after wrapping up the Stranger and His All tour. I'm not going to be covering Blackmore's Night in this series, so let's fast forward to 2015, when Ritchie Blackmore decides to resurrect Rainbow one more time. In late 2015, Ritchie Blackmore stunned the rock world by announcing he was temporarily stepping away from his Renaissance folk project, Blackmore's Night, to play a handful of all-rock concerts in Europe. This 2015 reaffirmation marked the first time Blackmore had strapped on the signature white Fender Stratocaster to perform heavy rock since dismantling Rainbow in 1997. After nearly 2 decades playing acoustic medieval music, Blackmore decided to revisit his legacy for a very specific reason, which was nostalgia and closure. He publicly stated that he was getting older and simply wanted to play the loud rock anthems of his youth one more time for the fans. However, rather than mounting a grueling global campaign, Blackmore designed this reformation as a highly exclusive, strictly limited run of festival and arena dates for the summer of 2016. When rumors of the reunion first circulated, fans heavily speculated that Blackmore would recruit famous former Rainbow or Deep Purple vocalists like Joe Lynn Turner, Glenn Hughes, or David Coverdale. Instead, Blackmore completely rejected the idea of a nostalgic supergroup and built a brand new backing band from scratch. Enter Ronnie Romero. Blackmore discovered the Chilean-born singer Ronnie Romero, who was then with Spanish metal band Lords of Black, through online videos. Blackmore was deeply impressed by Romero's vocal versatility, noting that he possessed a rare mix of Ronnie James Dio's grit and Freddie Mercury's power. For the remaining slots, Blackmore mostly pulled trusted musicians from his own inner circle rather than classic rock alumni. He brought in drummer David Keith and bassist Bob Nouveau from Blackmore's Night, alongside respective Stratovarius guitarist Jan Johansson and Ritchie's wife, Kansas Night, provided backing vocals. 2015 and 2016 Reformation split critical opinion down the middle. Traditional purists complained that the rhythm section lacked the thunderous, heavy-hitting swing of classic 70s Rainbow drummers like Cozy Powell. Furthermore, because Blackmore had spent decades playing delicate acoustic music, his guitar playing was noticeably slower and more restrained than his fiery 1980s peak. However, Ronnie Romero's vocals were universally praised as an absolute revelation, allowing the band to authentically cover songs originally sung by Dio, Bonnet, and Gillan all in one night. Shows were so successful that the one-off concept expanded. The group released live document LPs like Memories in Rock in 2016 and Live in Birmingham 2016, and they continue to play sporadic, short European summer tours every year from 2017 until their final performance in 2019. Now, currently, Rainbow is not officially broken up, but they are considered to be on an indefinite hiatus. Ritchie Blackmore has never issued a formal statement permanently disbanding the group following the 2015 revival, but several major logistical and personal factors have kept the band completely inactive. Following a highly successful run of sporadic European summer tours between 2016 and 2019, the band actively intended to reschedule more live dates. Rainbow thought about continuing to play live, but those plans were scrapped due to the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving the band on hiatus since their last tour in 2019. The lineup that defined the 2010s revival is no longer intact. Powerhouse vocalist Ronnie Romero, who was the vocalist for this era of the band, officially confirmed his departure from Rainbow in October 2023. Of course, Romero was the only singer Blackmore trusted to handle the band's demanding legacy catalog. His exit left the group without a frontman. Blackmore's age and medical status are the biggest hurdles to any future rock shows. It was revealed by his wife and bandmate Candace Knight that Blackmore had previously suffered a heart attack and struggled with subsequent health complications. Due to these cardiovascular issues, Blackmore's medical team strictly prohibited him from flying. In May 2026, Blackmore explicitly stated that while he still loves playing live music, he will only perform close to his home on Long Island, New York. He has completely ruled out any future international travel or heavy rock touring. Instead of Rainbow, Blackmore dedicates his energy entirely to his neo-medieval folk rock project, Blackmore's Night. After a brief touring pause in late 2025 due to health complications, he recovered to schedule a small localized acoustic performances. While the door to Rainbow is technically still a band, the combination of Romero's departure and Blackmore's strict travel limitations mean that Rainbow is effectively retired as a live touring entity. And with that, I say goodbye to Ritchie Blackmore for this series. But next, I will go back to 1996 when Deep Purple brings in a new guitar player who would end up as one of their longest running guitarists. You probably knew who he is, but I like to end my videos with a little bit of suspense. So check out the playlist, should be appearing on the screen right now. I believe this is the 50th episode in the series, and I still have another 20 years of music to cover. I think I have about like 18 more videos planned. So that's all coming up. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.